Hey, thanks Niharika for a wonderful introduction. And hello, viewers. Welcome to the digital edition of Literati 2020. To make a befitting beginning of a session about a love and a romance writer, I think I should begin with a few lines from the finest of all, Rumi. So here I go. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. We are in each other all along. Isn't it amazing? So, quoting those love soaked powerful lines from Rumi, I believe from Adam and Eve to centuries down, we human beings have always been bewitched and mesmerized with this emotion called love. And everyone has craved and traveled outwards or inwards to find it. We, well, we all have experienced it in some or the other way, fractionally or eternally. And sometimes when we don't find it, we seek refuge and respite in the verses, the poetry, and also in the prose, in the earthy fragrance of Avarak, the pages of the soil enchanting the written love stories. So, thanks to these love stories and romance writers for bringing the motley of colors in our lives. So, in this session, let's talk about love and romance and the twists and the turns in which it is woven by an immensely talented, accomplished, and amazingly youthful, gorgeous guest and author we have today, Anuja Chauhan. Today. Hey Anuja, a warm welcome to you to Literati. Really wonderful to have you on the platform. I'm personally overjoyed to be in conversation with you.
Hi, Mandeep. It's really nice to meet you. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, great. So, Anuja, when I was preparing for your interview, I wanted to know you as a person. So I dig a little deeper. And I'm sorry to say, I actually snooped into your FB wall in your online profile, and I kind of eavesdropped into the interviews you've been giving. So I have gathered, uh, you truly epitomize the romance with all that is part of your life, and you come across as a personified love story, exuding energy and happily ever after every bit. So, owing to, owing to your long advertisement and media career, if I may ask, is this doubt or love? The love in your life that seeps into the stories that you write?
Thank you. That's really nice. I'm not at all sure my children or my husband will agree as with the definition of me being all sunniness and light because I don't think that happens very often at home, especially in the lockdown. But yeah, I mean, I generally have a sort of an upbeat, cheerful way of looking at the world. I mean, that's kind of how so I think what you read in my books is sort of pretty much my persona when I'm being my best self. Of course, not when I'm cranky and miserable and things like that, because everybody gets at that sometimes. But I think that dark patches come in our life just so that the light that follows can then seem brighter. So I'm quite happy with that balance. So sometimes things are good and sometimes things are not so good, and you just sort of coast along with it and try and have fun as you go and
Oh, wow.
learn. Learning is very important. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think any tragedy is worth it if you can learn something out of it. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes. Wonderfully put, Anuja. So you've been writing for almost a decade now. And how do you think the love or romance has changed over the years from the conventional times, or I can say my time or our times, with very little access to each other, and now the overly accessible online medium-led world? So how do
Sure.
you capture this romance, and how do you keep up with this Gen X romance?
I well, I think what has happened is that the obstacles have changed and the medium of communication has changed, and things can move at a much faster pace than they used to when we were young. I mean, those days it used to take you 20 days to find out a girl's surname only and phone number to bhul jao. You didn't know how you got it. Today, everything you'll have mutuals with everybody who's in your age group, or went to a bunch of schools maybe in your area. So you'll always have mutuals, and you can always use the word slide into people's DMs all the time. So it's become really easy that way. But I think हमारे ज़माने में the obstacles were more about ही समाज and society and things like that. And now the obstacles are much more in your head. They're more created. There's all this stuff about commitment and commitment phobia and people realizing that maybe we've been putting too much of a burden on romance, meeting that one person just said तुम्हारी life बन जाएगी. Now another person cannot make your life. We realize that, you have to make your own life. And और भी चीजें हैं जमाने में. It's not just your
I know.
romantic life, it's your friends, it's your career, it's what you do, it's your passions, it's whatever cause you happen to believe in. वो सब भी है. I think all those options have increased so much for young people nowadays. So I think a little bit of that board on romance, thankfully, has come
Has
down a
come down.
little. It's
Expectations have
come down a little, which is nice in some ways and maybe not so nice in other ways.
I know. I agree with you.
Yeah,
So
it's not, I mean, I
yeah,
think for kids today, romance is not as life and sex as it was for us, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, they're much more chill about it. They're more analytical when they're looking at, if they're going to bump somebody up from best friend to boyfriend to maybe a
I
potential life partner. They analyze them very, very coolly. Yeah. These
yeah.
kids, I mean, they research everything before they even buy a cell phone. Imagine how much research they do before they pick somebody to be with, you know?
I know. And they know really how to handle, I've got a
Yeah,
grown-up
yeah.
son, it's funny, it was his first date, I took him to market and he wanted to meet that girl, but that girl didn't turn
I'm
up.
sorry, it's
So,
water.
yes,
Drinking
all the
water
way.
only, nothing.
So I was so upset that, look at her. She's so irresponsible. She's not even
Yeah.
called and she's not turned up, really worrying about my son feeling so heartbroken. He said, Mama, chill. It's
Huh.
okay. Hota hai." So, I know this generation is
Yeah,
very different.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're so protective also.
So, talking to the viewers now, dear viewers, Anuja is a prolific author and her novels are through and through bestsellers. Let alone that, they have been already with the film houses, web series, production companies. In fact, her first Zoya Factor has already been made into a movie, is it? Right now? So, starring none other than Sonam Kapoor, Anil Kapoor, and many famous actors in that. And she's also featured in Twinkle Khanna's channel, Tweak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a celebrity, Anuja, right?
No.
I would like to believe that.
Okay.
That helps me. I'm interviewing you, so I also get a little bit of fame. So coming my side. Now, from that comes my next question. I often wonder what is the bestseller? Are there some specific stats attached to it? Like if you sell some thousand prints, it's a bestseller, like the 100 crore movies, or if you make X times the money you have invested for a publisher and an author, it is a so what makes a book join the bestseller club and how it feels like to be one, Anuja?
I think this definition, this word best-selling novel is the most abused term in Indian publishing for sure.
It's
And yeah, and it's quite sad. The figures that go with it are quite sad. I think today, even if you sell 8,000 copies, they say bestseller. So I'm not, very sure. Of course, selling a certain number of copies at a certain price point is important, because I think the economics of it depend on that, you know. So I think the definition is perhaps 20,000 copies sold, maybe priced
there is.
at 400 rupees would probably mean that you're a bestseller. I have very limited understanding of this. I don't claim to be any kind of expert on the economics of writing books.
Oh,
But
but you've broken all those
sorry.
records, I'm sure.
Yeah, but they're not very hard to break. I mean, 8,000 copies, 20,000 copies in a country of 1.3 crore, 1.3 billion, who kya hai? It's quite sad. The figures are a bit sad in publishing, I
Uh,
think. But I think publishing people would give you a better
better.
understanding on what a bestseller is.
I know.
I think it's not just about the amount of copies you sell. I think it's about people liking the ideas or the themes that you write, however much your books may influence popular culture or may come up in references, or even if a book is very often borrowed and read in a library and therefore becomes current. I mean, there are those other definitions as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So now coming to the genres, I know that you don't like it that your work be put into a specific genre, but you seem to have mastered the art of writing rom-coms. As you say that you would rather be called it rom-coms. So and
Hmm.
you've stayed in that space for a while. So tell me, Anuja, is this an instinctive choice or a deliberate one? Is it because you truly believe in the idea of love and soulmates, or you know romance always sells better and wider because it has its appeal to our dreams and fantasies, so why not?
Mhm. No, for me, writing rom-com is very instinctive. I've often been accused of having a mind like the mind of a class 9 student. You know, sometimes a class 9 boy and sometimes a class 9 girl. I'm very
Okay.
smarty and very giggly. I get very excited about crushes and politics of like early high school. So I think you know how some people are born a certain age. I think in my head I'm 15 years old, and it's quite sad being 50 years old and thinking like a 15-year-old. But that is my natural. That's my natural setting, जो होता है. And I love writing romance, and I love writing comedy. So it's instinctive. This is not something that I have to um, uh, work hard at. I really do enjoy writing this, and I love reading it as well.
So why not? They always say na कि दिल कभी बूढ़ा नहीं होता. The heart is always
हाँ,
young,
right.
so why not? Yeah. Okay, so we always read this famous quote that
Huh.
make your passion your profession, and love each. You will love your job each day.
Sure.
And the people
Yeah.
people like me wince on the fence every day, and they are unable to pursue their passions and calling because their jobs are completely consuming. And on the other hand, when we see you guys, we really envy you. The creative people who are practicing it in their lives every day, living their dreams, and following their passions. How wonderful that must be. But is it actually true? Is the grass really greener on your side, or it has its own set of challenges? It's over glamorized, this thought.
See, I am very lucky to be able to earn money doing what I love to do, you know, and I'm very grateful for that. But I see, work is work. You may love your work, but it's still your work. You know, you still have deadlines and you still have responsibilities and you have commitments you made that you have to follow through. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई सभी अंकित हो रही like somebody like like a very famous cricketer saying, I love to play cricket, but he still has the pressure, right? When he has to go there, it's not just playing the cricket, it's playing winning cricket,
Absolutely.
carrying your team with you, delivering
A
to
lot
the
of hard work.
expectations of everybody. Maybe you don't make it to the top league, maybe you're playing some small time cricket, not making the blue jersey wala gang. So I'm saying that you may love what you do, but that doesn't take away from. So you're a little luckier than people who maybe don't love what they do, but it's still hard work so you can't take that away from anybody. And I think sometimes when you meet some people I know have a very boring job, they have a very corporate job, it's that kind of thing. But those people may have amazing afterlives. They may have lovely holidays and vacations they take. They go backpacking. They do kickboxing every night after they've done their boring corporate job. So I think it's about balance, of having things in your life that are hard work and discipline and responsible part of your life and something that's just pure fun. So ऐसा कुछ
Totally.
नहीं है. Like, हाँ.
I'm feeling better. Let's stick to your answer. It's very comforting. All right. So extending the same thought a little bit, in a different way. So, Anuja, what's your take in terms of, do you think the authors always remain authors and they write whatever they believe in and they feel like? Or eventually they run the risk of transforming from the storytellers to story sellers to make their ventures commercially viable, for the publisher and for themselves. And why not? Because that's the kind of occupation you are in. So, like, if we want to
Yeah.
make money in our own job, why shouldn't you? But, where is that balance and how they kind of remain true to themselves and to the craft and yet, be economically doing well?
See, Mandeep, what I think is it's the challenge is not so much um, about book selling. I think the challenge is more as you write one book and another book and another book. The challenge is to stay fresh. You know, your first few stories are low hanging fruit. You've thought about them for a long time. You've written it at a fever pitch. With every book, you have to dig deeper, or you have to move a little and dig a little, maybe this side, a little, maybe this side of what's within your easy reach. So I think that's what happens, and that's how the test of a writer is not in the first novel, maybe in the 15th novel, to see how this person is still connecting, is still fresh, still has things to say that people are interested in. So I think it becomes that, as you go along, you become your own competition. You don't need anybody else. So I think when people are struggling later on, it's more about, hey, मैं ऐसे क्या बोलूं? Like I, for example, I have some people who are hardcore fans who say we've read everything you've written. I read one book and then I read all your books. And then I start getting so worried because I feel if they read all my books together, they might have noticed that I repeat myself, or that character is like, you have those insecurities, right? So I think, yeah, and I'm saying, oh God, इसने सारी पांचों किताब एक साथ, तो she must have realized. I start thinking like that and I feel very vulnerable. So yeah, I think for
Take a
writers,
break.
as it goes along, it's not
Yeah,
about anything else you want to sell, you become more commercial. You're just trying harder every time because it's hard to have so much new material.
I
And
know.
that's why it's so important that you do other things with your life, that you take that backpacking holiday and that you engage with people you don't know, you do something different, because half the time you spend in your cave typing, and half the
I
time you have to spend outside gathering life and gathering experiences and new
absolutely.
insights so that you can bring it back and put it in your book.
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Yeah, that's very important, I think. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So, there's a very interesting thing I like about your books. So, you don't write in chaste English. Your stories don't read like the novel or a book. It feels like you're having a live conversation in your drawing room or a college campus. You infuse a lot of English words also. And I did a bit of a survey before this event to know how people kind of how much they have read you and what do they feel about your writing. So I floated a small questionnaire to various groups. So they said, what they liked about you is your writing style. They say, her style of writing is relatable and very conversational. And I think I really like the sometimes in the zest of making it very literature heavy, we forget the spontaneity, we forget the connect with the masses and the journal readers, right? And I like Sudha Murthy, the way she writes, because it all comes from the heart and it immediately reaches the people, right? But at the same time, did you in your career receive any criticism or critique from the language Puritans or literature Nazis? And how did you handle it, being the strong person
Well,
that you are?
I think English has a highly respectable background. Salman Rushdie uses a lot of English, a lot more than any contemporary writer today.
Oh,
And Salman
wow.
Rushdie is highly regarded. He's one of the bookers. So I think that, and he also used to be an advertising writer, apparently, when he started out.
I
So
know.
I think that the quest is always for authenticity. I'm just trying to write authentically. And if I have Indian characters who are living in India, they are not going to speak English like the Queen of England. They are going to speak English with their local influences, the local rhythm and the local idiom. There's going to be a to and a key and a matlab that will come up in the middle of all the English speaking, right? I'm just trying to be authentic because I think if I write a conversation in pure English, it's going to sound really fake. It's not going to sound real because people don't talk like that, really. So as long as I don't lose the the non-English reader who's like, what is she saying? And I try to keep it as authentic as possible. So the quest is for authenticity. As far as I never think of people as masses and general public. For me, readers are readers. I don't get into hey, थोड़ा high हो गया लो हो गया उस सब में क्या घुसना you write as naturally and as authentically as you can, and if you do a decent job of it, your book will find readers. People will read it. And as anybody whose work you follow, you'll find that there's a core of readers who become really loyal, and then they become like evangelists, and they will go out and say, you know what, she wrote this, why don't you read it, why don't you read it? And that's how I am. When I like a book, I'll go and I'll tell all my friends, read this book, because I like it. I get converted into a kind of ambassador for that book. What happens? So then that happens on things like Goodreads and places like that. Like For example, what happens even for bands at a much more massive level, of course, but you have someone like like BTS today, or you have someone like One Direction, say 10 years ago, and it was all about people discovering the bands and saying, we love One D, you know about One D, and carrying it forward. So I think that if you connect with that one little band of core readers who will read everything you write, and then maybe if they're not disappointed and they're very harsh, okay, because they think they own you. So if you don't disappoint them, if you don't let them down, then you can count on them maybe to take it forward. And
Good to
I'm
hear.
proudest of I'm a little cocky about this, but I'm quite proud of my readers because I've seen these girls and boys, when my first book came out in 2008, and at that time, a lot of them were in class 10 and class 11. And today, so many of these kids are doing so well. They're working in such lovely companies and such lovely organizations, giving back, highly intelligent. So I feel, yeah, मेरे readers बहुत cool है. So
You
I'm
have
I'm very proud of that. And sometimes I feel like quite like a mommy saying, "Oh my God, look at these kids." So so it's that. I think you write and you find a core readership, and maybe the core readership then takes you forward if you don't let them down.
I know, and you feel you got a role to play in what they are today. As
No,
a
and when you
as an
no,
author
not that,
profession.
but you feel बहुत प्रेशर होता है saying हाँ if they feel let down if they say क्या गंद लिख दिया इसने, then that is a thing to be worried about for sure.
I know. I can understand.
Yeah.
True, true. Yeah, I was chatting with you the other day when, before the session, so you said something very interesting that, kind of stuck with me, that you said that, even readers' choices grow and they mature, their taste also matures, you know.
Yeah. Yes,
And
yes, yes.
yeah. I think authors and readers share a very symbiotic relationship. Both
Hmm.
writers and fans grow and evolve, and
Yes.
so the stories that you choose, the content that you write, and even your characters evolve. In the
Hmm.
stories. So I've seen that Zoya was a naive next door girl. Then Bonu Singh, wasn't so simple. She was a little twisted. And then by the time you reached Baz, Tinka reflected more nuanced and multi-layered, complex character. So is it the writer growing along the time, or is it the generally after doing one you were more experienced and you want to take more risk with your characters? So what is this journey all about? Tell us.
No, like I said, I mean, like the first book is always low hanging fruit. Your first book will be your most autobiographical book. The Nikhil Zoya romance is very much like my own romance. It's the closest to whatever I've written. That book is a lot like my personal experiences. And then you reach a little more and you dig a little deeper. And I guess you grow and mature. There's a lot of things in Zoya that I'm quite embarrassed about. And now I hope to be some sort of feminist. And I feel that there's a lot of things in Zoya that would be cut through. And there are all those things. You become more aware of the world, you become more sure as a woman in what you think is, in your notions of how you think these spaces should be negotiated, things like consent, things, all those kind of conversations, come back to your head. And then when you're writing, you think about all that, you be a little more responsible, I suppose. And of course, your readers grow as well. So, like today, somebody, a young woman that read my book in class 11 may today be a very well placed executive in a multinational corporate job, and she'll hold me to a different standard. And I need to somehow not lose that whole young love, breathlessness, goosebumps, class 9 kind of frisson that I love to write, but also inform it with a little more intelligence and a little more responsibility. So you try to work that out.
I know, true. I would here in between like to read some comments. So interestingly, we talked about that you writing as a young ninth standard student, and the hearts remaining young. So Daljit Chima, Kana Chima says that किस्मत ने किया क्या हसीन सितम जिस्म बूढ़ा कर दिया दिल जवान रह गया.
Ah,
But we have a
see.
gorgeous lady here, you see, guys. So she's
Colonel Chima, please speak for yourself. हमारा तो जिसमें भी
we are everywhere.
Yeah,
So
Mandeep, and yes,
but that gives me it makes me ask you this question, and which is I think good for the writers, aspirant writers, and the young ones who want to make writing their career. How do you maintain yourself? Because writing involves lots of writing, so many hours of sitting continuously, either on your journal or on your laptop, and which also has a similar ergonomical hazards that we have in our jobs. You continuously work on. So what all do you do to in order to make sure that you're fit, and it doesn't take a toll on your health, and you look as wonderful as you do?
thank you. No, no, I don't. I live outside the city. We live in our pin code is called Bangalore Rural. So there's a lot of fresh air, there's a lot of view. We have a lovely garden. Currently have 6 dogs. I'm trying to get 4 dogs adopted. Please help me. And I do a lot of dancing and Zumba, and the family
Oh,
is very fit. Yeah, in
wonderful.
fact, Club You has a lot of Zumba in it, and it's the death of a personal trainer that really starts that book. So that's all to do with that kind of stuff that I do. So I enjoy being strong. I enjoy being self-reliant. If I want to move furniture in my house, I don't have to call the driver or the mali. I'll pick it up and move it myself. I enjoy being physically fit.
The the
It gives
the
me a lot of
Fauji
like
kid,
yum. वो
the
थोड़ा
Fauji
2
kid
step
comes
better
out,
वाला. हाँ
huh?
हाँ.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy.
Okay. So, one more thing that was coming to my mind, that what do you think, Anuja? Is the writing style of male authors different from the female authors? Because sometimes I really see these patterns. I observe the stereotypes that, male authors write something, and generally they will have more of, men reading their books, and female writers write something, and largely will have more of women fans, and,
Hmm.
readers there. So, like for example, if ask somebody that in my family and friends that we have interview of Chitra Banerjee, and who all have read, please, you can see that's her session live. So it was more of women who had read her than men. So it's a dilemma for an author. How an author breaks that line or blurs that boundary to make his or her content which can appeal to both Mars and Venus alike.
No, I think specifically when you talk about Chitra Banerjee, I think it's a lot of her books are princess stories. The Palace of Illusion is Draupadi's story, so they're very clearly it's a woman's story, so maybe more women read that. It would be, perhaps something like that. But there's a lot of, I mean, look at J.K. Rowling. Everyone reads J.K. Rowling. It's not like only boys don't read her because she's a woman.
Yeah,
So, and people know she's a woman. I mean, they obviously use J.K. instead of Joe because they wanted, her gender to not be an issue and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But I don't think itna hai. But perhaps like you go to a party, you'll find the men standing around the bar and you'll find the ladies sitting somewhere else and talking in our parties very often. And then it's like, ye kya sexual segregation or right, guys, come on. And so I think people have the tendency a little bit to gravitate towards their gender, a bit. But at that same party, 2, 3 hours later, you might see everyone's dancing, everyone's chatting, सब लोग warm up हो गए हैं. So I think as a writer, maybe when you first come out, then maybe more women read, maybe your particular gender reads you, but as you're there longer, you get to know your work more, it may cut across. I don't know. I don't pick authors on the basis of the gender for sure. And there's a lot of people I've read and I've been so confused about whether they were men and women. So, of course, there's stories of very famous writers, George Eliot, writing as men, though they were actually women and stuff, because there were social taboos
yeah,
and all in between and
yeah.
stuff like
Both
that. Even
sides.
J.K. Rowling
Yeah,
has written as Robert Galbraith. So, but as a reader, I don't do that kind of differentiation. As a writer, it is true that a lot of girls read my books, definitely, you know. But I don't think only girls read my books. It's quite interesting because I get a lot of retired senior bureaucrats, men who read my books. It's very interesting. Or I meet like
that's
the most
nice.
unlikely of people who say, "I love your book," and I'm saying, "Wow, you're like a senior politician or you're an actor," and
How
to do
sweet.
other things for a living. So it's crazy. Like, so I don't think we can just assume, you know.
I,
So I think
I,
thoda bahut that party and men at the bar, women at the sofa, thoda sa hota hai. But I think if you stay with
beyond a
it, then
point.
it sort of mixes and blends. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, true. I think bars is a very good example. You have attempted a different
Hmm.
kind of a genre. You've written from a guy's point of view, while the rest of earlier stories were more from a girl's point of view. And you've
Hmm.
really leaped that path in order to, and I'm sure that has helped you gain a whole lot of readership in from men as well, men and boys.
I
Right.
don't know. I mean, maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's as obvious as like, just because you've written a book from a male point of view, then more boys will read it. If you wrote from more from girls' point of view, more people will read it. Eventually, it's about the story and what you put in it. And I think serious readers get past that. I don't think serious readers are put off by the gender of a author. I think people who are maybe novice readers are just starting out and are very dependent on recommendations and who haven't firmed up their taste yet get
Uh,
swayed by things like this.
True, true,
I
true.
think serious readers don't really care. They've gone past that stage. And again, like I said, it's better to target the serious readers and hope they will evangelize for you and find more people.
Oops, we are
As
coming.
a writer, I don't think you should be targeting that I'm writing this book for
We
young
should. We
women
should just
or
write
I'm
what.
writing this book for
Hmm. What you
boys or
feel, yeah,
something.
I think should be your story, which you feel more,
Like love
strongly
story
about.
dekho, आप Eric Seidel का love story. It's an all-time
Hmm.
classic. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
written by a man. It is loved by women.
yeah. I think we're coming towards the end of the time limit that is given to us. I wish we had more time. So quickly, I have this last quick thing in which I wanted to, I would call this section My Book, My Lines. So I picked up few interesting lines from your few books and I will speak out those lines and I will want that you tell me the book. So how much you remember your own books?
Oh my God.
Do
Okay.
that. So the first one goes, the word paradise evolved from the
Huh.
Persian paradisa, which simply put means walled garden.
That's from the beginning of those pricey tacos.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah, yeah. Because
I'm
that
not
book is very much. That book is about that. It's about these five girls growing up in a house which is pretty much cut off from the world and their own little space, and how slowly they become more aware of the larger world outside.
true, true, true.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's one more. I'm logical and practical. There isn't a single creative bone in my body. Oh my God.
This is bonusing. This is bonusing from the house that PJ built because she's obsessed with being a businesswoman because her dad was a businessman and his business failed. And so bonusing is very obsessed with being an entrepreneur and a businesswoman and it's all about that. Yeah.
You, true. You sure remember your books, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So one last one, okay? So work hard, but make time for your love, family, and friends. Nobody remembers the PowerPoint presentations on the final day. This was a trick one, okay? This is not your line. This was Chetan Bhagat's line. Sorry. So I think
Sorry.
I just wanted to make it fun. So now yeah, we're coming to an end. So people must be wondering what is the title of this session, Club You to Death.
Yes.
So, yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about it quickly before we part, Anuja. And what
Yeah,
is this
sure.
about? And is it going to be a new kind of a romance? This time, maybe not so happily ever after, or an unrequited love story, or a quirky, reckless romance? What is it about? What should
No,
people?
Club You to Death is there's wordplay in the name. I mean, when I'm talking about club, I'm sure in Chandigarh you must be having some amazing club where all the posh people go and there's beer and there's golf and
Oh,
there's tennis. So this is the club we're talking about. It's based very much on like a Delhi Gymkhana club or a Bombay Gymkhana or Bangalore club or Toliganj club or any of these fancy clubs we have. And it's a murder mystery which is set in a very posh club in Lutyens, Delhi. So it's my take on crime. It's a whodunit. It's what we call cozy crime. So it's not very violent or very gory, but it's more like in the genre of like the whodunit that you read next to a fire and it talks a lot about about clubs and classes in society and privilege and things like that. The people who have the membership, the people who don't have the membership, no worries, Khandani, Amir Log, all that kind of thing. And
Okay.
it comes out not in the summer of 2021, but I'm very happy to announce in spring of 2021. So it's a late
Okay.
February release next year.
Really look forward to that, Anuja, and I'm sure all your viewers and readers are waiting for your new book to get released. Last one quickly. So there is Parampreet Kharbanda who's asking, how do you go over writer's block if you have one, if you ever have one?
The writer's block is a tough one. There's nothing you can do about it. It just comes and sits there, and there are various ways of doing it. There are two schools of thought. Both have worked for me in different ways. One is that you do something else. Blocked ho to aap blocked ho. You do something else. You put your entire dhyan somewhere else, and you pick up something else that you've been wanting to do, like a home renovation project or a holiday or some other work that you may have, other creative work that you can do. And then when you come back with your mind refreshed, then you may be able to get through the block. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to grimly hammer, like Maji the Mountain Man, you chip away at your block every day, day. It's a much harder, sweaty, a horrible way of doing it. But you keep writing it and you will hit a breakthrough for sure. The other thing I find is that nothing is wasted. You know, like when you hit a writer's block, then you might write something and you might type it out and you keep it there and then you say "Ye bakwas hai," and you don't delete it. Never delete the bakwas. Make a folder, make a bakwas folder, keep it there. Try again another day, type something, keep it there. Even you may not use it today, but 2 years later, 5 years later, you will come back and you say, this was damn good, yeah, and you put it in some other project, you know? So I'm just saying the
Makes sense.
struggle is
Absolutely.
also growth. Struggle is growth.
I know. I know. Thank you so much, Anuja. I wish we had more
Thank
time,
you.
but we have to wrap up. It was
Yeah,
wonderful
sure.
having you. And thank you, readers. They've been writing a lot of comments. I apologize, I can't read all of them because of the paucity of time. So have a great day. Thank you. And let's
Thank
sign off.
you.
Yeah. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thanks, Mandeep. Thanks, everyone, for watching.